so much for joining us, everyone. My name is Leah Locke. Welcome to our Presidents for Entrepreneurship Pledge virtual signing event. We're so happy that you're here with us this morning. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications for NACCE, and I will be serving as the moderator for this virtual event. So I love seeing everyone type in the chat box who they are and where they're calling in from. So if you haven't done that yet, please feel free to do that now. I'm just going to run through a couple logistical items before we get started here. Number one, this event is being recorded, so you will receive the slides and recording after this event. As well, we want you to be able to submit your questions via the Q&A feature on your Zoom webinar dashboard. You can see to the screenshot on the left where you will do that. As well, we would love for you to continue to use that chat to respond to speakers with your comments, stories, links, etc. Please note that you can toggle between sending that to everyone or just to the panelists, so be sure that you toggle that to the correct audience. Lastly, if you are on Twitter, we would love for you to share your insights with us using the hashtags NACCE PFEP as well as NACCE President, and we'd love for you to tag NACCE, which is our Twitter handle. Alrighty, so I just wanted to briefly show you the agenda for today. So pretty quickly here, we will go ahead and introduce Lisa Kiplinger-Kennedy, and she will be doing some welcome remarks as well as Dr. Roger Schultz. We will then move into the background of PFEP with NACCE's President and CEO, Dr. Rebecca Corbin. Gary Schoeniger will follow with a keynote he's the founder of ELI. We'll then move into a nice fireside chat that was conducted by Dr. Corbin, as well as Chancellor Eli Oakley, as well as Vice Chancellor Shani Weber. And then we'll get to what you guys are all here for, the virtual pledge signing from all 12 presidents. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce Lisa Kiplinger-Kennedy. Lisa is the Regional Director for Business and Entrepreneurship. She has been a NACCE advocate and friend for many years now, and we have just loved working with Lisa. So Lisa, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Leah. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for attending our event. I've had the pleasure of working with these presidents in this region for the past 6.5 years. It's been exciting to see the entrepreneurial work and progress made in our region, such as the Entrepreneurial Certificate Program, the Maker Spaces, the expansive innovation ecosystem, and the new website that's coming out this month, eNet.IE. The pledge that these 12 presidents are making shows their commitment to entrepreneurship, and I'm honored to partner with these colleges and presidents to advance entrepreneurship in our region. I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Roger Schultz, who serves as the Superintendent President of Mount San Jacinto College. Dr. Schultz was at the very first meeting I attended after starting this role regarding the creation of a business incubator in the vicinity of his college. This is what really started my pursuit of expanding entrepreneurship and innovation education at the community colleges in our region. It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Roger Schultz.
Well, good morning, Lisa, and everyone. Thank you so much. It is an honor to serve as the chair from Region 9 and represent our 12 colleges on the state CEO board. And I'd like to take this time, if you're not familiar with Region 9, to just share a little bit about why we are so critical to the state and the nation. We are a 27,000 square mile region comprised of Riverside and San Bernardino counties. Our region stretches from Los Angeles and Orange County borders to the west and goes all the way to the Arizona and Nevada borders to the east. Our geographic region is about the same size as 5 states combined: New Jersey, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Delaware, and Rhode Island. And as I said, there are 12 community colleges that serve this vast region. Our population is 4.6 million people, roughly 11% of California's overall population. That also makes us the 13th largest metropolitan area in the United States. We're forecast to add another 1.5 million people over the next 25 years, about double LA County's predicted growth. More than half of our population identifies as Latinx. In 2019, our region experienced higher job growth than the rest of the nation, the state of California, and our neighboring metro areas, according to a UC Riverside analysis. That same year, the Milken Institute conducted a study of 200 major metropolitan areas that focused on wage and job growth. The Inland Empire nationwide. Hear the phrase, as the Inland Empire goes, so goes California. That's why this region is so critical, and it is so important for us to support entrepreneurship and economic support of our small businesses. Anyway, again, an honor to be here today, and I look forward to hearing my colleagues.
Thank you so much, Dr. Schultz. I'm now honored to introduce the President and CEO of the National Association for Community College Entrepreneurship, or NACCE as we call it. She has been such an inspiration to me and so many others in the expansion of entrepreneurship, not only in community colleges, but in the entire education system. I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Rebecca Corbin.
Thank you, Lisa, and I appreciate so much that you brought all of us together. This has been your vision, I believe, for the last couple of years. And I think just the fact that we have all of the presidents here, Dr. Schultz, I think you started us off in just a beautiful way of reminding us of the footprint of your region and how it not only impacts the state of California, as you mentioned, but really the entire United States, and I would say globally as well, especially because California is so instrumental in many, many activities that really drive innovation around the world. So it's my pleasure again to come to you today to really celebrate the first virtual PFEP signing. And why this is important is if you think about where we were a year ago, we never could have foreseen some of the challenges and really some of the opportunities that we would have to really accelerate growth. So as we look forward in a hopeful way to the future of all of us being safe and coming together in different ways, it's really couldn't be a more perfect time to have this special event. And I want to just take briefly a few minutes and tell you a little bit about the history of the Presidents for Entrepreneurship Pledge. One of the reasons for this is so that it's not put out there as just a symbolic gesture. And while it is that in the sense that you are all stepping forward, the presidents of this amazing district, to make this pledge, but it's also grounded in research. About 6 years ago, NACCE spent quite a bit of money, thanks to a foundation underwriting it, to validate this study. We looked at the Presidents for Entrepreneurship Pledge signing, specifically the 5 steps that you'll hear about in the pledge, and did a survey of not only presidents, but also boards of trustees and staff and faculty. And the results came back that it really does have a profound impact on the perception and actually the action of creating innovation, or if a lot of innovation is happening, taking it to the next level. So I know all of you are students as well as educators, and I wanted to just share that. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, somebody that I've known in the 7 years that I've had the privilege to work for NACCE. He is an author and an entrepreneur himself, internationally recognized thought leader in the field of entrepreneurial mindset education. His message has influenced a broad audience of academic institutions, economic developers, organizations that span from governments to nonprofit clients, and especially the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation. In addition, the Cisco Entrepreneur Institute, as well as the US State Department and European Commission. Gary Schoeniger, as the founder and CEO of the Entrepreneurial Learning Initiative, has led the development of Ice House Entrepreneurship Program, which has been recognized nationally as redefining entrepreneurship education in classrooms and communities around the world. Gary, along with Pulitzer nominee Clifton Talbert, is also the co-owner of Who Owns the Ice House? 8 Life Lessons from an Unlikely Entrepreneur, in an international bestseller described as required reading for humanity. So thank you, Lisa, for thinking of Gary. And Gary, thank you for being here today. So I'm going to let you take the program away and inspire us with your words of wisdom.
Thank you, Becky. I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you, Lisa, for inviting me. I'm going to start with a little presentation here. So you know, I talked to Dr. Corbin a few weeks ago about the theme of this presentation, and we sort of co-authored this title based on a paper that I've been reading by this name. It's Driven by the Past or Navigating the Future. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about this morning, just very briefly, about how to lead with an entrepreneurial mindset. And those of you that know me know that I've been obsessed for 30 years now with understanding entrepreneurs. And I've been obsessed with understanding the mindset and the methods of everyday entrepreneurs, not necessarily the big name, high-tech entrepreneurs, but ordinary people who have no particular advantage in life, yet somehow they manage to create superior solutions. Somehow they manage to carve out meaning and prosperity in their lives. Somehow they find ways to make greater contributions to the organizations and the societies they inhabit. How do they do that? These are the questions that I've sought to answer over the last 30 years. I've had a chance to go around the world interviewing hundreds and hundreds of these, what I would call unlikely entrepreneurs. I've also spent about a decade looking at the literature and the behavioral sciences, social and behavioral sciences, to explain what I can only describe as a behavioral phenomenon. So I want to start with this premise that I don't think of entrepreneurship as a business discipline. And I would urge you to sort of think about this beyond the confines of a business discipline. And one of the arguments that I'll make this morning is that we need to stop thinking of entrepreneurship as a business discipline. We need to stop thinking of it in a binary sort of way. You either are or you're not. You're either going to become an entrepreneur or you're going to work for an entrepreneur. You're going to be an entrepreneur or you're going to be an employee. And I'm arguing that that distinction is rapidly becoming obsolete. But what I'd also like to argue is that, when we look at these underdog entrepreneurs, what we see are people that are highly resilient and resourceful. They're people that are able to identify and actualize opportunities in highly ambiguous, resource-constrained environments when the path is not clear and the rules are not yet known. And my argument today is that entrepreneurs are the best suited to not only adapt and thrive in a rapidly changing world, but also to make a greater contribution to the organizations and the societies they inhabit. That's really my thinking about entrepreneurship. So let's stop thinking of it in a binary kind of a way. So I want to begin by introducing this concept called transformation theory. And it's very, very useful to understand the nature of change within any living system. And it's also helpful to sort of disentangle entrepreneurial behavior from maybe more managerial type behavior. So transformation theory was developed by a guy named Dr. George Land. He was a systems thinker. He just passed away about a year ago. And you can read about this in his outstanding book called Breakpoint and Beyond, for those of you who are interested. So transformation theory works like this. Again, it's designed to explain the nature of change within any living system. And it works like this. So there's a discovery phase, there's a growth phase, and then there's an obsolescence phase, which in some cases becomes a reinvention phase. Now, what Land is saying that each of these three phases requires distinct rules for survival. The trick to survival, according to Land, is to understand which phase you are in so that you know which rules to apply. Because the rules for survival in phase one they're maladaptive to phase two, and the rules for survival in phase two are maladaptive to phase three, and so on and so forth. So these orange dots represent what Land calls breakpoints, so the moments in time when the rules for survival change. Now, I want to point out that in this graphic illustration, it's quite clear that there's a breakpoint. But in the real world, it's not always that obvious. We don't wake up in the morning with an email in our inbox that say, hey, the rules have changed. time to change, the world has changed, time to change the world for survival. It's not always that easy. All right. So basically, and this is all living systems, right? In phase one, we're learning how to survive. As Land said, the organism is searching for a connection with its environment, right? And once the connection is found, the first break point is reached. At that point, you take what you've learned and you use it, and you become better and better at it in order to survive and grow, right? And then at some point, we hit the second break point, which we know we've encountered the second break point when the growth starts to slow. And in nature, that's probably most often a result of aging or a changing environment or what have you. And it's at that point where we either fade into obsolescence or we reinvent ourselves. So what does this look like from a human perspective, right? Let's go back to the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. Adam Smith and the Wealth of Nations. Every man lives by exchanging. We all live by exchanging useful things with one another. And part of what I'm trying to do here is break entrepreneurship down into its first principles, into its most basic principles. We all live by exchanging something useful with other humans. That's how we survive. And the more useful we become, the better off we're likely to be, right? There's a fundamental idea. So some of the questions I'm going to ask this morning, rhetorical questions. What is the useful thing that we exchange? And with whom do we exchange it? And how do we learn what is useful? How do we learn how to become useful? These are rhetorical questions designed to get at our deeply held, mostly unconscious beliefs that are influencing our behavior without our awareness. In other words, our mindset, right? So as humans, we learn how to become useful to other humans, and we primarily do that in school. Then we hit the first break point, we graduate, we get our certificate, our diploma, our degree, we go out into the world and we advance in our career. We become better and better at what we do. We become more knowledgeable, more skillful and adept at whatever it is we're doing that enables us to grow and advance in our career. And inevitably, the second break point occurs. The growth starts to slow, right? And again, we're faced with, maybe we're retiring, maybe we've burned out, or maybe the slow growth is the world around us has changed. Maybe there are competitors, maybe there are new technologies, maybe there's environmental change, maybe there's, I don't know, a pandemic, right? So the world changes suddenly, and here we are. Shift happens. So that's where the intersection, that's where we're faced with the choice. Are we driven by the past or are we navigating the future, right? That's the fundamental question. Let's look at the form. Let's look at what happens when we're driven by the past, right? So what Land points out is that the attitudes and skills and the beliefs that we acquire in the growth phase that are absolutely essential to our growth are the beliefs that will often prevent us from adapting in a changing environment, right? That's where we struggle to adapt at this second break point. And when we're driven by the past, the way we respond to this change is we tend to double down on previous ideas, previous beliefs, right? What does that look like in our world? We start slashing budgets. We start jettisoning non-essential personnel, non-essential projects. And this is what Land calls a siege mentality, right? We go into this siege mentality, and sometimes it gives us what he calls this back to basics bump. The numbers start to look good for a minute, and it fools us into thinking we're on the right track. To be fair, sometimes that's the way to respond to a temporary setback. But in a rapidly changing world, it's often the fatal blow. It's the fatal blow that leads us to become obsolete, right? As Land himself said, nothing fails like success. When we're reaching into the past, we're doubling down on prior beliefs, right? We develop what the psychologist Carol Dweck calls performance goal orientation. As we become experts and leaders in our field, we're measured by the outcomes, by what we're producing. And as a result, we develop a performance goal orientation. And what that does is create something psychologists call cognitive entrenchment, right? We become entrenched in our prior beliefs. We rely on causal reasoning, which is a fancy way of saying we always plan everything before, we want to know the outcome before we begin. We rely on automaticity, and this is a funny thing here, right? All behavior starts as goal-oriented behavior. But once our brains have decided this behavior works well enough that we don't need to consider other behaviors, our brains automate the behavior so as to reduce the cognitive load. But what happens when we automate behavior, our brains aren't very good at noticing the degradation of outcomes of that behavior, right? We become very risk averse, and we become vulnerable to a psychological condition called the Einstellung effect. It's a German clumsy word, but it basically means a fixated way of thinking and an inability to recognize solutions when they're unambiguously presented. The author Jared Diamond said it very well in his outstanding book called Collapse: How Societies Choose to Fail or Succeed, in which he said the values to which people cling most stubbornly under inappropriate conditions are those values that were previously the source of their greatest triumph, right? So now let's look at the other alternative in navigating the future, right? When we look at entrepreneurs, what we see is they're driven by a deeply held, mostly unconscious assumption that it's my responsibility to figure out how to make myself useful to other humans. And that by doing so, I can empower myself. Now, this seems like a subtle little distinction, but it's the distinction that makes an extraordinary difference over time. So the entrepreneur is no different than anyone else. They live by exchanging, but they're trying to figure out how to become useful to other people outside of normal systems. They're less prone to, they're less bound by convention or societal norms. They're more willing to challenge the status quo, right? They're not assuming that they're going to fit into a known system with pre-existing rules and norms. It's a subtle shift in perspective that makes a very big difference in the behavior. It's also important to understand the context of this entrepreneurial way of thinking, which is highly ambiguous and resource constrained. And I'm sure that the presidents who are on this call today will identify with that. The point I'm making here, it's the ambiguity, the high degree of ambiguity and the resource constraints that create the optimal conditions within which to develop entrepreneurial attitudes, behaviors, and skills. In fact, absent those conditions, you can't become innovative and entrepreneurial. Because if there's no ambiguity, that means you're working with a known system. And if you have access to resources, you can make things happen. You don't have to be innovative and entrepreneurial. So the rules for survival are different for the entrepreneurs figuring out how to make themselves useful outside of known systems. They have problem finding skills. They have problem solving skills. And they become internally directed, self-directed and self-regulating, an internal locus of control, higher degree of ambiguity tolerance, self-awareness, resilience, and so forth. Now, if you look at those rules for survival, you'll recognize those as 21st century learning skills that all the big thinkers around the world have identified as the skills every student is going to need to learn to adapt and thrive in the new world. So when we're navigating the future rather than being driven by the past, we develop a learning goal orientation. This is fixed growth mindset stuff, right? This is it's a learning goal because I'm out in the jungle with a sharp stick and some baling wire. I'm constantly alert. I'm constantly learning, right? That leads me to rely on effectual reasoning, which is the opposite of causal reasoning. Effectual reasoning is you have to try things. You can't know before you go. You can only learn by doing, right? We become micro experimenters. We reduce the cost of failure through micro experimenting. Psychologists refer to this as error-based learning, right? You've all heard the quote about Thomas Edison, 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb. That's error-based learning, right? You're constantly micro experimenting until you find something that works. You have to develop ambiguity tolerance, which I'm telling anyone that'll listen is a superpower in the 21st century. It's an absolute superpower. And we develop this cognitive agility, right? Because we don't have expectations of linearity and stability and predictability. So all this is to say that navigating the future enables us to access unprecedented problem-solving abilities that are not otherwise available to us when we're engaged in routinized behaviors. This is in the neuroscience. This isn't my over-caffeinated opinion. This is borne out in research in the neuroscience, right? Lisa said something, she used a word I hear in entrepreneurs all the time, and people overlook it. She used the word vision. And it's the vision that's the word we constantly hear for entrepreneurs. They're striving towards some kind of a vision. And by striving towards the vision, our brains get access to this. What I mean by unprecedented, it's not just coming from memory, it's brand new. So all this is to say, in the past, we learned how to become useful within highly stable known systems with established rules and predictable outcomes. And it prepared us to work within highly stable known systems with established rules and predictable outcomes. But that world no longer exists. And the mindset that once enabled us to thrive is rapidly becoming obsolete. So in conclusion, two simple ideas. I've redefined entrepreneurship as the self-directed pursuit of opportunities to create value for others. And by creating value for others, we empower ourselves. When I say empower, I don't just mean in economic terms. When we're engaged in in self-directed, when we're encouraged to pursue our interests and develop our abilities in ways that contribute to the greater good, we become optimally engaged. We tap into the most potent form of human motivation known to man, right? Bruce Lee once said, the successful warrior is nothing more than an ordinary man with a laser focus. And I would say that the successful entrepreneur is nothing more than an ordinary person with a compelling goal. Now, the other piece of the puzzle here is a mindset. And I've scoured the literature and I have not been able to find an adequate definition of mindset. So I borrowed this from Edgar Schein's definition of culture. I reworded it, right? So I'm defining mindset as a pattern of basic assumptions learned by an individual as he or she solved problems of external adaptation and internal integration that's worked well enough to be considered valid and therefore assumed to be the correct way to perceive, think, and feel in relation to those problems. Now, as Peter Senge said, we all have a mindset, yet very few of us are aware of it or the ways in which it influences our lives, right? So I'm not saying that we need to ditch column 2 and we all need to become entrepreneurs, right? Our parents or our grandparents went through one S curve in their whole life. What I'm advocating for is something I'll call dynamic stability, right? We have to constantly be searching for new ways, pushing the limits, experimenting and trying new things. As Charles Darwin once wrote, it's not the strongest nor the most intelligent that survive, but the ones most responsive to change. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Gary. We appreciate your keynote presentation and always find your talks to be super powerful and impactful. So thank you so much for sharing with us. Alrighty, so we're going to move right along to our next portion, which I'm excited to say is a fireside chat, which we tested this format at our annual conference and folks really liked it. So we're happy to continue it on today's event. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get us started in the fireside chat.
Well, welcome everyone. This is a really exciting day for us. We are here to celebrate the first ever virtual Presidents for Entrepreneurship pledge signing, and also one of the largest gatherings of presidents in this new virtual world that we all live in. But one of the things that's very exciting is that we've gathered together people who are sharing inspiration and thought leadership, and none of this happens ever without good leadership. So of course we turn to the state of California and two wonderful, amazing leaders that are doing some very innovative work there. So I'd just like to welcome you, Chancellor Oakley, and also Vice Chancellor Weber. You've been longtime friends of NACCE. In fact, when I started working at NACCE almost 7 years ago now, Chancellor Oakley was one of the endorsers of our national conference. So I hadn't met you at the time, but have enjoyed following both of your careers as leaders, as entrepreneurs, and as people that get things done. So we're here today to share with people, not only in California, but people across the United States, and a few people that are tuning in from the UK and around the world that want to learn a little bit more about NACCE and what we're going to do today with this pledge. So I'd like to start with you, Chancellor Oakley, if you might just share a little bit about your story and what brought you to the position that you have of really being the leader of one of the largest educational districts in the world. So maybe if you don't mind, share a little bit about the journey that attracted you to what you do now and how entrepreneurship has been a part of that.
Well, thank you, Rebecca, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you and to be able to celebrate this convening and this very important topic, particularly right now in the midst of this pandemic. So I'm a product of the California Community Colleges. I wouldn't be here but for California Community College. So, you know, my journey began like many students in our system and throughout the country, which is I came from a family that didn't participate in higher education. I'm the first in my family. I didn't go to college right off the bat. I went to the United States Army, where you learn a little bit about entrepreneurship, but it wasn't until I came back from the military, was raising my family and working, I realized I needed to go back to school in order to do and to participate in the kinds of things that I wanted to participate in. That formal education was an important part of what I was missing. So that's how I got into the community colleges. I happened to attend the Golden West College that opened the door for me to transfer to the University of California, Irvine, and community colleges have been part of my life ever since. And so, you know, entrepreneurship is what has helped me be successful, because part of my journey has been to bring voice to some of the challenges that students face, to help get people into the workforce, help allow people to become entrepreneurs, to build wealth in all sorts of different ways. And in order to do that, you know, I had to work with my team and model the kind of behavior that we wanted to see happening in our colleges and in our communities. So That's still what we do today as we continue to face challenges, to take on risk. I think risk is such an important part of entrepreneurship. You can't talk about entrepreneurship without talking about your ability to take on risk and the importance of risk. So that's what we do. Unfortunately, I have people like Shinny who understand how that works.
Thank you for that. And it's always been my belief that one of the best leadership qualities is you surround yourself with people of integrity and people that have an innovative mindset. And Shenny, I know we had the opportunity to work together a couple of years ago when you were at Long Beach Community College leading some amazing initiatives and introduced us to a number of entrepreneurs that were working on some projects. So perhaps you could share with all of us today, your path and really what led you to higher education and the work that you're doing with entrepreneurship, not only at Long Beach, but what you're doing across the state.
Hi, Becky. I think what I would say is I have the great fortune of being at Long Beach Community College District under Chancellor Oakley's leadership when he was president there. And the lessons learned we have about the importance of economic development and workforce development being, two sides of the coin and very intricately connected. And looking at the programs that we develop and have the opportunities to work on because of Chancellor Oakley's leadership in allowing us to look at and serve not just the employers in our communities, but also the job creators. And we all know that entrepreneurs are really the biggest group of job creators in our country. 66% of net new jobs are created by small businesses. And it's these small businesses that are the backbone of our communities. And we know that and we hear that. And so it's really been a privilege for me to be able to first of all, work at Long Beach to launch the Los Angeles Regional Small Business Development Center Network, serving LA, Ventura, Santa Barbara counties when we had the opportunity to apply for that federal grant. And then Chancellor Oakley, at that time, President Oakley also recognized the importance of participating in growing the entrepreneurial ecosystem regionally and bringing the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program to our college. And that is where I think I cut my teeth on working on the entrepreneur program, understanding the entrepreneur mindset and how critical that is for our students to learn and to also have the opportunity not just to take a job, but also make a job as they look at options and look at developing their future careers. Entrepreneurship is also a career. And having that opportunity to combine my experience at, in private industry and understanding what businesses need, what employers need, and at the same time to be able to help translate that into helping students learn that and embrace those opportunities. I think it's really something that I very much encourage in my current position as Vice Chancellor of Workforce and Economic Development, that our colleges be able to embrace the entrepreneur mindset, not just for students, but also in how we serve students and how we adapt and how we experiment, are willing to experiment and try new things.
That is so important. And it kind of brings me back to what Chancellor Oakley mentioned about, tolerance for risk. And I think about that a lot too, that, many of us have had to take on probably greater degree of risk because the risk of not doing something is even greater than not taking action. And it's interesting. We all just had an opportunity to hear from Gary Schoeniger, who himself is an entrepreneur and has written about the experience of an unlikely entrepreneur in one of the books that we've all read, Who Owns the Ice House, which is bringing me back to Chancellor Oakley, talking about your background as a first generation person who's risen all the way to the top, but has not forgotten what that feels like. And I know a lot of the work that Gary speaks about and that we all lean into is really leading with a sense of empathy. And I would love to hear from you, Chancellor Oakley, if you could maybe share with us, we've come through, or when we're not through it, we're in the middle of it, the pandemic, and what did you lean into as a leader with a very large system and complex problems? What were the things that kind of inspired you to keep going and to lead everyone within your orbit, which is a lot of people, to keep taking those steps forward?
Well, I think this question of empathy is very important. We find ourselves as the educators certainly feeling the impacts of the pandemic, but in many ways we're shielded from the impacts that our students face. And we have to keep reminding ourselves about the urgency that our students face, the urgency of day-to-day life, of losing your job, of losing hours, of having your whole family now in your house, trying to figure out how to educate your children while you're trying to accomplish your own education, waiting for the next stimulus check whenever that arrives, waiting for your unemployment check, which may have been, pulled under the rug from you. So we have to remind ourselves that our students are not only going through a lot more than we are as the educators, but also that they are overcoming a lot. And we can't forget that part either. They're practicing entrepreneurship every single day that they wake up, just trying to figure out how to get through the day, how to feed their family, how to juggle the crises that are going to arise that day, how to deal with a bank that has not received the unemployment check yet. Those are the challenges that we have to, as the educators, keep reminding ourselves of, and using that as our motivation to do more, to lean in harder, to find more opportunities, to advocate louder for our students. So I think that certainly what has kept me going, thinking about and trying to walk in the shoes of our students. And then also just doing everything that I can and my team can to support our colleges that are really on the front line of dealing with these challenges. But those are some of the things that I think are important. And also trying to position ourselves for what happens when we begin to come out of this pandemic. We have to position ourselves and position our students to be there ready to take on the jobs that are being created as we speak. And so we can't dwell on the past too much. We have to always be looking toward the future to figure out where we need to position ourselves and, most importantly, our students, so that they can benefit from whatever emerges as the new economy.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said. And it does really resonate with what Gary shared about really creating that new future. And how do we do it? Because, some of the things we don't have enough information right now. Vice Chancellor Weber, I'd love it if you would share with us, maybe from your perspective, leading a lot of workforce initiatives, what are some of those jobs that you see, or sort of trends of things, it could be in California or nationally, of areas of the economy and jobs maybe that you see community colleges preparing students for, so that we're sort of getting into a bit of the nitty-gritty of the work to be done, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Prior to the pandemic, we've had some very specific areas that we are starting to focus on, such as technology and advanced transportation, logistics, those kinds of issues that are growing. We know technology obviously is a big focus, given that software runs the world. But with the pandemic, I think it's kind of accelerated those needs. We are seeing that the world is digital, and we have now had to live a very digital life, whether we like it or not. Those areas are going to continue to be big focus. I mean, if you look at looking at the communications, perspective, 5G is an area that is growing. We know that. That's where a lot of the jobs are. Obviously, all of the new technologies like cloud computing, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, data science, and all those related cybersecurity. These are all big areas. We've seen a huge increase in transportation logistics, and it's not just the warehousing jobs. There's a lot of technology involved in transportation and logistics, where there's a lot of basic digital skills literacy that's needed. And then, of course, we live in a world where we still want stuff. So manufacturing is still going to be a continued need, right? At the end of the day, if you look at just the 5G infrastructure as an example, you're still going to need your traditional trades to build the infrastructure. You're going to still need hardware for the 5G network, which is manufacturing. And then, of course, you'll need the software to run the 5G network. Just as using that as an example. So, thinking forward, those are some of the key areas. And then now we've got this added layer of energy and environmental climate management issues that's really critical, that's surfacing. And so that emphasis is going to create a lot of opportunities in jobs as well for our students. And so those are areas that our colleges really are starting to focus on and really thinking about.
Yeah, it seems so very well aligned with, our new administration in DC, as well as we're learning about their focus on small business and climate change, everything that you just mentioned. And I think, what both of you as leaders are doing is really looking at this present challenge and gearing up for this unknown future. And it's funny, our fireside chats go by so fast because they're just, we could talk for a long time, but I'd love to hear from you, Sheni, just very briefly, because I'd love for Chancellor Oakley to kind of close us out as we begin to celebrate our 12 presidents signing the pledge. What Chancellor Weber, are you most hopeful about? I know there's a lot of things to worry about and things that are uncertain, but what are you hopeful about going into 2021 and beyond?
Well, I'm most hopeful about our students. We have an incredible pool of talent that is really untapped. And the creativity and the passion to support their communities. I think it's really our responsibility to figure out how to, through education and training, harness that talent. And particularly because our student population is so diverse, and bringing that talent to the forefront to help solve some of these big society problems, right? There's so many things that needs to be addressed. And if you look at the diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda, the whole issue about equity, and you look at technology where, a lot of times decisions are being made by very few people, mostly white males, in little conference rooms. How do we include more diversity just across all of the different sectors where you have a more diverse voice helping to solve the problems in a way that's inclusive of all of our communities. So I'm very hopeful that with all the conversations that are going on, that we have a very promising future as we go down and live through this pandemic. I know we will get through to the other end.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. One thing we were very excited about in February is the NACCE board voted to form a new committee devoted to equity, inclusion, and diversity. We have a full-time director of innovation and equity, our own Jeff Smith, who is also my co-host of our new podcast. So fun fact on that. But I think that you're right. We can't make the best decisions if we're not inviting everyone in a wide variety of perspectives to the table. So that's so important. Chancellor Oakley, what would you like to say to our 12 presidents and the people around California and the country that have joined us today? What closing message would you like to share as we're getting ready to actually do our formal signatures and celebrate with some very beautiful quotes that each of the presidents very thoughtfully submitted as a way to celebrate this special day?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to NACCE and to you and your entire team, Rebecca, for bringing everybody together and continuing to put entrepreneurship at the forefront of what we do as community colleges, as educators across the country. I had the pleasure of being there when NACCE was first launched and being one of the original signatories. So it's wonderful to see that this tradition continues to grow. And I want to thank and congratulate the signatories that we celebrate today, the presidents that are signing on to this commitment, and for bringing entrepreneurship to their colleges and to California. California, continues to be the home of entrepreneurship, and I think it's important that we continue to grow that tradition in California and to really not just help our students think about entrepreneurship and introduce them to entrepreneurship, but also to work within our own cultures, our own campus cultures. We need to continue to grow and innovate as colleges, and the entrepreneurial mindset is key to that. So I just very grateful to the presidents that are here today, to all the community college leaders and educators across the country who are doing the work that is going on now to help get our country through this pandemic and to lead in the recovery.
That's beautifully said, very heartfelt, and no doubt the leadership that both of you provide is truly needed, and during this time. It gives me and my colleagues and everyone at NACCE a lot of hope. So I would like to thank you both very much for your time and your leadership and your passion for higher education. And now we are going to turn to the part of the program where we have each of our presidents sign the President's Pledge for Entrepreneurship in February of 2021 as an early event, a precursor, if you will, to National Entrepreneurship Week. So I thank you all, and I will turn the program back over at this point.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that fireside chat. Thank you to Dr. Corbin and to Chancellor Oakley, as well as to Vice Chancellor Weber for sharing their thoughts. I especially love what Chancellor Oakley said about leading with empathy. Just a great presentation. So thank you so much for sharing that. All righty. So we are going to get back to what we all came here for, which is our virtual pledge signing. So we are going to actually turn it back over to Lisa, who you heard from earlier in the presentation, who is going to give a bit of order to who will start signing first. And then we're going to hear from each of our presidents a little bit more about why they wanted to sign this pledge. And like Becky hinted at as well too, we have a nice video kind of sharing some quotes about what entrepreneurship means to each of these presidents as well too. So Lisa, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Leah. So now is the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time for our president signing. So we're going to be going in alphabetical order of our colleges. So we will be starting with Barstow Community College and President Eva Bagg. Dr. Bagg, will you please share with us why you want to take this pledge and what it means to you, your college, and the community?
Lisa, yes, thank you so much. So I see great value in being part of NACCE and embarking on the commitments that follow from the President's Pledge that we're making this morning. For me personally, I've long understood the value of the entrepreneurial mindset, as both my parents were entrepreneurs their entire adult lives. In hindsight, I think I took for granted the valuable lessons that I learned from them and that embodied entrepreneurial thinking and acting. I think I've attributed my own successes, realized largely through hard work, risk-taking, and trial and error, to what I learned from my entrepreneurial parents. What NACCE and the myriad resources they bring to community college leaders is the framework, the resources, the lessons learned from a network of practitioners that can deliver entrepreneurial education to our students in the most impactful and expedient way available to us at this time. I know that my colleagues pledging this morning have long dedicated much of their lives to the mission of supporting the success of our students. But given the unfolding of recent events, I know we are all called upon with an urgency, perhaps like never before in our lifetimes, to bring to bear every resource available to act now and to pave the way towards sustainable economic recovery of the communities we serve. I believe that entrepreneurial thinking and action is the most promising way forward to create more equitable opportunities for those students and communities whose marginalization has become even more pronounced in recent months. The capacity to act quickly and effectively is greatly enhanced through the power of collaborative networks and mutually supportive relationships among like-minded and like-hearted individuals. I'm honored to symbolically step forward to stand together with NACCE and my fellow community college presidents to leverage entrepreneurial education to help us to rise to the occasion of our day, to equip our students with the mindset and resources to help them innovate and thrive into a highly ambiguous future. I strongly believe that the value of the degrees and certificates that our colleges grant and the value of higher education in general today must be measured in terms of the opportunities they afford our students to align their full potential with meaningful work and creating a more equitable society. So with that, I'm going to try to manage this huge board and sign my pledge to be a member of NACCE and commit to the program. So I hope you can see the board is probably larger than I am, but here we go. There we go. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bagg. That was fantastic. There's applause and celebration going on, I'm sure, all over California and our region and the nation. So next up, we have College of the Desert, Dr. Joel Kinnaman. If you'd like to say a few words about why you want to take this pledge and what it means for you and your college.
Certainly, and thank you for having us all this morning and providing us an opportunity to discuss such an important topic. I think we all know that bold community colleges create a place of synergy between our students, our educators, our economic and workforce development partners, and our communities. And through being bold and futuristic, there's a lot of synergy that can occur to create a fertile environment for entrepreneurship. In our area, we have solar, we have wind, business incubators. Our college is getting ready to construct an accelerator in Palm Springs. So this pledge is our commitment to creating an entrepreneurial culture, because this is critical for our students and it's critical for our economic future. So we join NACCE in this pledge and are happy to be part of it because, again, I think bold community colleges are the place where we can create that synergy. So with that, I will sign the pledge and see if I can do this without knocking everything over. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic. Up next, we have Copper Mountain College with Dr. Darren Otten. If you would please share with us why you're taking this pledge and what it means to you, your college, and your community.
Thank you, Lisa. And really excited to be involved today for lots of reasons, but really, as we talk about entrepreneurs and we talk about entrepreneurship, associated with where my lens is and being primarily very rural, most of my career, most of my life, and understanding that connection between business, education, and ultimately community is the critical crossroads of how all of these things work. Without business, community doesn't exist. Without education, businesses don't exist. And this is really ultimately part of why I'm proud to be here. We know entrepreneurship is very important to California. It is very important to the nation. For me personally, I think it is even more important, as I noted, to those rural areas. For me, my background and my own journey was never actually, I'm an accidental academic. Somehow I've ended up as a president. But what I'm proud to say is that I think that starting businesses, crashing and burning some businesses, having some success with business in my previous lives have prepared me not only to be here, but also to help foster some of that entrepreneurial mindset that I think is so critical and really helps build communities. So with that, I'm privileged to sign, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be involved. Thanks, folks.
Thank you so much. These are just such great messages we're getting from all of you. So next we have Crafton Hills College. We have Dr. Kevin Horan. Dr. Horan, if you would let us know why you're taking this pledge and what it means to you, your college, and the community.
Thank you, Lisa, for inviting me to be a part of this. San Bernardino County has a rich history of entrepreneurship, and this is a part of our effort to grab back onto that great practice and lift up a county that needs individuals to be out there creating new businesses, creating opportunities to support families and our communities. So I'm super excited to be a part of this pledge. I'm going to be a little more brief than my colleagues because I don't have the setup that they have. So I'm going to try and lift this up and sign at the same time. But Crafton Hills College is grateful and excited to be a part of this movement, and we are looking forward to capitalizing on the curriculum and the tools and the partnership with NACCE to bring more entrepreneurship to our service area. And I think my background's going to hide the poster here.
That's great. Thank you so much, Dr. Horan. I feel like I just need to clap after everyone. This is so exciting. So next we have Mount San Jacinto College with Dr. Roger Schultz. Dr. Schultz, if you'll share with us why you're taking this pledge and what it means to you and your college and the community.
Well, certainly, again, our college sees education as transformational, and this entrepreneurship pledge reflects our commitment to not just changing the individual, but also transforming our communities. And we see it as a way to embrace greater diversity in our college and our programs and our local business community. And it really does bring together innovation and collaboration across multiple disciplines. For us, for example, we blend biotechnology, GIS, engineering, all combining with business and entrepreneurship mindsets to really create these innovative new areas for our community. And of course, there's the opportunities for students and faculty to build and create something new. And going back to the words of Gary earlier this morning, it's about really being servant leaders for our students and our community and making ourselves useful to others and create value to others. And that's why we're taking this pledge to really make our region great. And as you pointed out earlier, Dr. Corbin, really helping even California and the rest of the country. So with that, I too am going to be awkwardly trying to sign this large document. And with that, hopefully it'll appear. Anyway, trust me, I did sign it. I'll send you a copy. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Schultz. That was great. So yeah, it's very difficult with our virtual backgrounds to be able to see that, but that's okay. We heard the pen writing, so thank you for that. So next we have Moreno Valley College. We have Dr. Robin Steinbeck. Dr. Steinbeck, if you could please let us know what signing this pledge means to you, your community, and your college.
Hello, I'm signing the Presidents for Entrepreneurship Pledge because this relationship with NACCE and its incumbent commitments provide us with the opportunity to recognize the innovation and ingenuity with which we, as a college, have partnered with local city governments, businesses, and entrepreneurs to foster, support, and enhance our regional culture of entrepreneurship. We know the entrepreneurship mindset provides the framework for an evolving and robust economy, and also for healthy, interconnected communities. We also know that entrepreneurs are disruptors and change agents from which we all benefit. I am personally excited about the possibilities of our present, and I look forward to our bright future and the creativity with which our community college students and our graduates will transform our community and economy. It has been my honor to participate in this event, bring attention to the work we're doing in the Inland Empire. in California. I thank you. And I've signed my board.
Thank you so much, Dr. Steinbeck. So next we have Norco College with Dr. Monica Green. Dr. Green, if you'd share with us what the pledge means to you, your college, and the community.
Good morning, Lisa. NACCE, just honored to be here and part of this partnership. Entrepreneurship opens up the world of work for our students and communities. Entrepreneurs have an opportunity to realize their vision and their passion, and entrepreneurship builds confidence in workers with business savvy and innovative growth mindset, and reinforces leadership and strategic thinking skills that are shared with the world. Norco College is thrilled to join this pledge with NACCE to transform the lives of our students, our communities, and our region. Norco College is a proud partner. And I too am going to be kind of awkward because I don't have a background to show, but here is me signing, and honored to do so. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your partnership, and look forward to the hope and future ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Green. Next, we have Palo Verde College with Dr. Donald Wallace. Dr. Wallace, if you'd share with us why you're signing this pledge and what it means to you, your college, and the community.
Thank you. We are excited about being part of the NACCE program as well. Our situation here at Palo Verde College is a little bit different than many of the other colleges in our system because we don't have a large base of job opportunities in our immediate local area. So we're essentially training students that we know are going to be moving away from here to find job opportunities. But the resources that we're looking forward to with NACCE and the networking will help us to focus our training on entrepreneurs who will be able to, after their training, start their own businesses if they wish to do that, or find local businesses that need more creativity and new ideas to boost or reinvent, as Gary was saying this morning, their existing businesses. We think this will be particularly adaptable to our programs in this area, such as agriculture, where graduates of that career and technical program can open businesses that support the local agricultural business right here in our community, such as welding and other sorts of things that support agriculture, or even going into farming. Nursing, we're training nurses that a lot of them do get jobs in our local area. So we think that's a good, one of our nursing students might want to start their own home healthcare business. Computer information systems is obvious how someone could start a business in that. Automotive, that's obvious. Building construction technology. So we just think that folding in this spirit of entrepreneurship and focusing on that and emphasizing that may stimulate our students to think about something more than just finding a job, something about creating their own future. And I think that's great. So we are excited about making this commitment to NACCE and making it official, although we've been part of it for some time, by signing the President's Pledge for Entrepreneurship. And there we are.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wallace.
Thank you.
I love hearing the pen as all of you are signing. It's so fun. So next we have Riverside City College. We have Dr. Gregory Anderson. Dr. Anderson, if you'll share with us why you're signing this pledge and what it means to you, your college, and the community.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, first of all, to NACCE. Thank you to Lisa for organizing this event. There's very little that I could say that hasn't been said already. I echo the comments of my colleagues, and I think that the only thing I will add is that everything that is said about each of the colleges and our ability to further our students and their communities through entrepreneurship applies to Riverside City College. More importantly, though, our region is stronger through this network. Our region is the better for this for this work together. And what that means to me And I think it means to our students is that we are the future of California. We are the future of the United States. And if we can create a more just society, if we can create a less racist society, if we can create a society that truly values the input, the innovation, the ideas of our students and their communities, we will model a wonderful future for all of us. So with that, I'm thrilled to be part of this regional effort, part of this state and national effort. And here I am going to sign. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anderson. Next, we have San Bernardino Valley College. We have President Diana Rodriguez. President Rodriguez, if you'd share with us why you're taking this pledge and what it means to you, your college, and the community.
Absolutely, and thank you for having us here. You know, why we at San Bernardino Valley College are taking the pledge, it's been said that, community colleges are the key to the post-pandemic recovery. So I think it's important that we bridge the education that we're providing today with the work that's going to be needed tomorrow and beyond to create new jobs, to create new markets that will work in the post-pandemic environment. This work is going to require us to be entrepreneurial. And for our students to be successful, they will have to have, at some level, an entrepreneurial spirit as well. And, in education, Valley College will play a vital role in these efforts as we transform our communities. And it's just going to be exciting to see what we can do as a region with this transformation. And I want to thank you, NACCE, for bringing us all together, bringing this pledge forward. We value your work in identifying partnerships and collaborations that create opportunities that we can further the entrepreneurship programs on our campuses and local communities with tools, research, and overall knowledge. So thank you for doing that. And we look forward to doing our part with you, NACCE, our colleagues around the region, and throughout the state. So I am very pleased to be signing this pledge this morning. There it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Rodriguez. And last, but certainly not least, we have Victor Valley College. We have Dr. Dan Walden. Dr. Walden, if you'd just share with us why you're taking this pledge and what it means to you, your college, and the community.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Lisa. Well, it is a no-brainer to take this pledge and to sign this commitment. I've been listening to Gary for some time, and I love what he talks about coming to work either as an employee or as an entrepreneur. And so we are engaged in a major cultural shift here at Victor Valley College to change the mindset of how we approach the college each day. How we come to work is not as employees, whether we're classified, faculty, staff, administrators, it makes no difference. We come as entrepreneurs. We come to think about new ways of doing things in order to make our students ready for the great new world that's ahead of them. And so I've even engaged Gary to come this coming summer. He's going to be with our leadership team and spend 3 days with us in just trying to get this mindset inculcated inside of us and to be part of our culture. So it is an honor to join with my colleagues this morning and with the National Association for Community College Entrepreneurs and sign this. And as a result, everybody's trying to find some way to sign this thing. I've asked my staff to come in and hold it. So if you'll just hold on a second while we do the safe thing of wearing a mask. And just let's get over here. Can they see this? All right, here we go. And there we are. We're on board. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Walden. And I want to thank all the presidents so much again. I really feel truly blessed to be part of such a collaborative region. So thank you all so much. And I could just hear the applause throughout, even though we can't all be on today together. I know everybody's applauding behind the scenes. So I'll turn it back over to you, Leah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. And wow, that was awesome to see all of these presidents signing the pledge. And I agree, Lisa, I love hearing that the pen marks and the markers actually making the pledge. So that's awesome. We are now going to transition into hearing a short video of what entrepreneurship means to each of these presidents. So we asked each president to submit a quote on what entrepreneurship means to them. And here is what they had to say. Thank you so much for sharing those amazing quotes and just, learning a little bit more about what entrepreneurship means to each of these presidents is so impactful. So thank you so much for sharing that. Just a couple reminders here and we'll shortly close out the event. This has been hinted at a couple times throughout our talk today, but if you're not aware, next week is National Entrepreneurship Week. So we would love for you all to celebrate National Entrepreneurship Week with us. It starts on Saturday, February 13th and goes through the 20th. We have a couple different ways we're celebrating up on our website, and we'll include some of those details in a follow-up note to everyone, but we hope everyone will join us in celebrating this momentous week. Alrighty, so a big thank you so much to all of our California presidents for publicly sharing their commitment to entrepreneurship. We also appreciate all of the trustee members, elected officials, and other leaders that are on the call. Thank you to everyone for sharing their valuable time with us. We hope this sparked your entrepreneurial spirit. And just a quick reminder to remember, stay tuned for a recording of this event in the upcoming days. This event is now complete, and we encourage you to share your entrepreneurial spirit with others throughout the day today. Thanks so much for joining us.